Alright, this is Tomasz Smółka, his work, and he's basically been looking at some feedback for his comps. So the first and foremost thing that I would say right off the bat is you really want to pay attention to, and I want to see how far I can zoom in. Alright, so it looks like I can do pretty decent here. Okay, so the first and foremost thing actually that you want to do is you want to um, look at some of the things that you have going on. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in, actually we'll draw in the rule of thirds. So I'm just going to start just by drawing in the grids that kind of help us with the composition. Okay, and so these grids basically give us key points that we should be looking at. And the problem with your stuff, so I'm just, alright, I've got that. I'm going to zoom in here. Okay, so the first and foremost thing, you want to kind of make things fall within this grid. And the problem you have right now is nothing, you're getting your ideas down, that's great, but you should take this idea and move it to the next level. And what I'm going to talk about here in a couple of things is, the first thing is, if you look at this one, none of this stuff really falls within the grid. It's close, but it doesn't really come close. This one has a decent aspect. This one has a decent aspect that it falls within that grid. So, you know, things like this, you know, you could move this character over. Let me just do this. Okay, so on this particular aspect, you could take and move this character, actually, this character, and move that character over, and start by cleaning up. Something like that. Now that puts her in that grid aspect, and then what you can do is, I would say, move this, or I would move this here, move that over in front of your gate, and start by cleaning up this and putting in a better background. Then what I would do is take this bridge, and this bridge would instead be moved more diagonal, like so. And by doing that, it's going to fall into the parameters of that aspect of being much more dynamic of a composition. And so those are things that you want to pay attention to. Okay, you know, putting in like that, like so. Now, falling within that grid, then the other thing you want to pay attention to is the tangents that you have. So the problem is, before, what you've got is you've got a tangent here, you've got a tangent here, you've got a cutoff here, you've got another tangent going on up here. You know, it's pretty common in your drawings, just looking at it. Or here on this below one, you got a tangent, or two things are touching. She's on a tangent here. So you need to decide what you're going to do with that tangent system, and kind of fix every little bit in piece. Okay, so then, you know, that's, get your stuff falling in the grid, so your focal points are much more interesting, and that will help out with the design aspect of your drawing. So just kind of going over, you know, this one has a decent flow in here, and I'm going to just start marking this up. So again, you know, this one has a decent flow in here. You know, I like that you have this this tree right here on the tangent line, I think watching your perspective, because the perspective is kind of odd here, um, because if this is a vertical, or if this is a 3-point system, what you want to do is you want to, you're looking at this character from above, so what you want to do is you want to adjust your perspective accordingly. And what that means is, and I think we can just do it with, let's do a perspective. So I think if we just, oops, that would actually help to be selected on something. So let's go down here. So if you're looking at above, that basically means you're going to get kind of a bird's eye view, or bird's eye view. So things will, you know, arrange itself a little bit better this way. You get the idea that things are looking at it. It's not the perfect way to do it, but it gives you the explanation of what you need. You know, moving on to the next one. Again, watch your tangents. You know, you've got a tangent here. So you've got a tangent here. You've got nothing really in the grid points. I would move this tree right here, maybe down here, and put that tree house there. That gives me a focal point to look at. Things like that. So you want to pay attention to where things are falling. This one here is a little bit better. Things are falling within that tangent system, but again, you've got a lot of things that are touching each other, like this and this. You know, this is what they call stacked overlap and things like that. So what you want to do is make sure that it differs from the background. It doesn't have a good placement here. And then if you're going to keep doing this, there should be another one right here as well. This one here, again, you know, what is your focal point? I would move this building over here to create this focal point. Actually, no. You can light. Let me skip that. You can light this up, and that creates your focal point. I would probably move this guy up a little bit more. You know, put your guy here, and then move that, and that creates a secondary focal point. So things like that. This one is actually, I think, got a lot of potential. This one here is kind of the same aspect. You know, you're running this bridge over, and again, nothing lines up really on the focal point. So you want to, especially since my eye is being drawn this way, I want to have something that's created on there. So just by moving this over a little bit, you want to have, by moving this over a little bit, it'll move your focal point here. Yeah, your bridge changes up a little bit, but I think if you moved the character over here, like so, and then the bridge lengthwise, you'd still get the same effect. Also, watch this tree, because you're getting a tangent here, you got a cutoff here, so things like that need to be paid attention to. You're actually doing your perspective here, and I think that's good, but again, you're always putting this character on that same level. You know, move the character up a little bit, and that'll help out quite a bit, as well as taking your, you know, if this is your focal area, then what you want to do is I would actually kind of shrink this a little bit, and that gives more space for your frame here. And what you can do is then pay attention to your overlap, because the problem you have is if this is the width, because of the angles and stuff, this is actually longer, so this would actually be something like that instead. It's just would be narrower, and the way you do that is, so you take your 2 points like so, and then draw from point A to point B, and if that is your square system, then what you're going to do is from this next grid, so I know this one is the next grid here, so that one would actually be drawn like this, and so on and so forth. It's kind of hard to show you here, so because it's so small. Okay, so let me just, there we go. So if you decide your square is this big, then when you draw the next one, it's here. When you draw the next one, it's through that line. So as you can see, by doing so, your grid is getting a lot smaller. So pay attention to where the size that would work. This one here, again, you've kind of got things in the center. You've got an idea of, you know, where things are going. What I would do is center this piece here a little bit more, and possibly, you know, put this piece here, possibly move that over and align it with the grid. So that's going to help you right there. Then looking at your stuff here, the big thing I'm going to say right off the bat is don't use black. The problem with using solid black is it desaturates everything and makes everything look muddy, especially in the trees and under the house, things like that. Instead, use a saturated version of the color that you want to have. So in this case, you want to have, you know, like if you're doing this blue, then you want to have the desaturated version of that blue, and that's going to give you that aspect. Also, don't, like, I don't know if you're using the color dodge or whatnot, but try and pick colors from the scene. And so what that means is, so if you're using blue here, okay, and you want to have dark blue here, that's fine, but lighten it up so it gives your silhouette a little bit better. You know, if you're pulling in blues from here, put those same blues in the river as a reflection. You know, it's really dark and black over here. You don't want it, you want more saturated, but in the same aspect, if you're going with the browns that you're using, you know, pull those browns up, and so on and so forth. Same thing as in here. You know, you've got these bright colors here, and you don't have any of those bright colors anywhere else. You need to have that, you know, stop going completely dark black, and instead use, see right here, this is all saturated black. Instead, I pick this color, go a little bit lighter, and you see how that adds a little bit warmth to the shadows. And this is painting style, of course. You can go a little bit desaturated, but the problem you have is that by the time you get up to this area, you're solid black. You need to adjust the blacks. So what that means is, start by putting in, you know, your layers of colors. Now I'm gonna one thing, because you mentioned Feng Zhu. One thing he's doing is he's taking these colors and putting them in there as color palettes. He's not using, he's not relying on them for their actual image until later on in the thing. So at this stage, don't put in color palettes, don't put in the leaves, don't put in all that stuff until you get an idea of the way your composition should go. Put in your base color. You can use it as your colors, but not as, you know, the fill for all, and you're done. So in this next one here, you can see you've got your trees in there, and that's fine and dandy, but there's a lot more issues with your trees. So in this case, you want, you know, this is when you start getting in there and drawing in and let's add some darks. So this is when you get in there and start drawing in the line work that you need things like this, and you can get in there and start adding in that extra color. Now the other aspect is you've got these huts in there and they're the same color as the trees, so if you want, I would say start putting in that aspect of those types of things. So get rid of it. You eventually want to get rid of the line work. So to do that, you have to kind of put the lights and the darks in there at the same time. So again, same thing here. Everything gets so dark so fast, and it keeps happening. You're losing your focal points by doing so. So at this point, you want to add more color to it. So by doing so, I would do just a simple, say you want to light those up, and that's not okay. So you want to light these up, and by doing this, you're now creating focal points that look a lot more interesting, and then you can use this light to rim things in and even give a little bit of extra color to other areas. That's the same thing again. You're going super dark, and then as you come forward, you're getting really black. You need to because at this level, what Feng is doing is he's cleaning up his line work. So you wouldn't have this solid line work around. He would basically start building it up with colors and putting in different effects. And what you're doing is you're still letting the line work be there. So that's pretty common with all of them. As I'm looking at them, is each one is just getting darker and darker and darker. And you have no real kind of, you're losing your focal points as you just keep painting. So this is I'm just going to hide these layers here. So these are your final comps, and again, you're still having that same issue. So you have this dark blue, or this really rich saturated blue for the sky, but the problem is the sky doesn't lead up anywhere. So to the foreground, you're getting almost all this black and just dark solid colors, and at that layer, at that level, you want to be able to see what's going on. You've lost me because now you've taken out my focal point. You've pretty much, I don't know what I'm looking at anymore. And then especially when you're getting into this stuff here, the colors from here to here really aren't changing that much. What if you want this to stick out, you want to add a little bit of blue to pop that, to pop the background out. It's layering your foreground, middle grounds, and backgrounds. And this over here, same concept. I can't even see the character because the background is so dark. You need to adjust and focus on what you're doing, so that way you have, like, your focal point right here is the sky in the background, which is actually has nothing to do with the entire painting. So, and then this one here, again, you're running into what part of the focal area do you want? Again, you're blacking out the character. You're dumping all I see is a lot of blacks, and this is my focal point here. When I look at this, this is my focal point. It's solid black. It's drawing my eye, even because negativity draws the eye as much as your positive space do. And you don't have enough contrast in here to kind of keep me from drawing the eye over this way. Same thing here. Your big dark black spaces here are drawing my eye more than anything else, because the light spaces are competing with it. And so that's what you really need to pay attention to is, get better colors, better tonal values, things like that. And then, start getting more perspective in there, because at this point, a lot of this stuff should be, could be subtracted. Um, you know, get rid of, you know, getting rid of that thick, deep line work is going to help you out quite a bit. And even just adding in some, orange highlights is going to draw my eye a little bit better. And things like that is going to draw the eye. And so you need to understand that that black that you're using is really coloring out all your detail and taking away from everything you want me to see. All right?